welcome to the special broadcast to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States of America. I'm Arun. With me is my colleague Mark Lane, and this is a rolling non-stop comprehensive coverage of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first state visit to the United States of America. This is a rare honor that has been accorded to him by the US administration. He landed in New York last night, and since then he's met several thought leaders. And now we are building up to that moment, Mark, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be leading the 9th International Yoga Day celebrations from the North Lawns of the UN headquarters. Extremely significant because it's the same location where way back in 2014 a resolution was passed to have 21st of June, the summer solstice day, as the International Day of Yoga. So you're building up to that historic moment.
Indeed, yes, absolutely. And in fact, yoga has become a much needed intervention in our lives, in our hectic lifestyles today. And it also fits in with the mantra of lifestyle for environment, which the Prime Minister has been championing. Also, it's fitting in with the theme of the G20, which is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one family, one earth, one future. So it's setting up. It seems ideal in a sense, isn't it? That this year's theme, as you did mention already, is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
So there is a coherence here that we see between India's G20 presidency and the 9th International Day of Yoga. We are all building up to that moment when Prime Minister will script history by leading International Yoga Day celebrations from the North Lawns of the UN headquarters. We'll get you updates from there on ground. Our correspondents will be joining us from New York as well as from Washington DC, where the second leg of the Prime Minister's visit will take place. Also, there will be expert analysis. So this is the place to be as far as Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States is concerned, for all the updates and for comprehensive analysis. So let's get started now with the stories in the run-up to the International Day of Yoga.
Well, the 9th International Day of Yoga is being celebrated across the globe with great enthusiasm as the celebrations are taking place all over the world. And this year's theme, as we've just been talking about, is yoga for Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which beautifully encapsulates our collective aspiration, which is one earth, one family, one future. Now, the Prime Minister will be leading the global celebration of yoga from the United Nations headquarters in New York in the United States. And we know that the UN officials, envoys from across the world, prominent individuals, personalities are going to be joining this event and, of course, showing their commitment towards yoga. The main goal of International Day of Yoga is to spread the word about yoga as a holistic way of improving mental as well as physical health. This observance has a significant impact on highlighting the significance of mental and physical health in the modern world. In addition, the day also encourages regular meditation, a practice that we should cultivate and use ourselves because it creates mental clarity and self-awareness, which are all necessary for the success of a stress-free life environment. Now, the overall goal of International Day of Yoga is to make people more aware of the many benefits of yoga.
And that indeed is happening with the people around the world celebrating yoga. So New York too is going to script history very soon. In around 1 to 2 hours from now, we expect the event to start at the North Lawns of the UN headquarters. The location being extremely significant because, remember, it was in September 2014 when Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the UNGA that he proposed the idea of having an International Day of Yoga, and 2 to 3 months after that, in December 2014, we saw that the UNGA adopted with overwhelming support with around 177 co-sponsors the resolution to have an International Day of Yoga on the 21st of June. So India is credited for spreading the message of health and wellness, for spreading the practice of yoga, its ancient spiritual practice, to different corners of the world.
Yes, indeed. And,
President Draupadi Murmu performed yoga at Rashtrapati Bhavan today to mark the 9th International Yoga Day. This year, the theme for International Yoga Day 2023 is Yog for Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, like we've been talking about, effectively encapsulating a collective aspiration for one earth, one family and one future.
Indeed, yes. Here's the President taking part in Yoga Day activities at the Rashtrapati Bhavan and setting an example for the rest of the country along with the staff of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. And likewise, many other parts of the country also have celebrated Yoga Day, especially at the crack of dawn, because that's when a person goes out to welcome the sun through the Surya Namaskar.
In Prime Minister's words, yoga embodies unity of mind and body, thought and action, restraint and fulfillment, harmony between man and nature, a holistic approach to health and well-being. These are Prime Minister's words at the UNGA in 2014. He also says that yoga is not only about asanas, it is a blend of gyan or knowledge, karma or work, and bhakti and devotion. And there, President of India, Draupadi Murmu, leading India in Yoga Day celebrations. Even as PM Modi leads the nation on International Day of Yoga from New York, he shared his thoughts in a video message. He said that crores of people worldwide join yoga with the Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam theme. He added that today yoga has become a global movement through observance of the day.
योग के इस अनूठे सेलिब्रेशन में देश दुनिया के करोड़ों लोगों का इतने सहज स्वरूप में शामिल होना योग के प्रसार और प्रसिद्धि को, उसके महात्म्य को उजागर करता है। योग का ये प्रसार उस विचार का विस्तार है जो पूरे संसार को एक परिवार के रूप में समाहित करता है। योग के विस्तार का अर्थ है वसुधैव कुटुंबकम की भावना का विस्तार।
Well, the Prime Minister also asserted that this year the programs of International Day of Yoga have become more special due to the ocean ring of yoga, and he said that the ring of the ocean, the ring of yoga, that whole idea is based on the mutual relation of योग से विचार and समुद्र का विस्तार।
साथियों, इस साल योग दिवस के कार्यक्रमों को ओशन रिंग ऑफ योगा इसने और विशेष बना दिया है। ओशन रिंग ऑफ योगा, इसका आइडिया योग के विचार और समुद्र के विस्तार के पारस्परिक संबंध पर आधारित है। सेना के जवानों ने भी हमारे जल स्रोतों के साथ एक योग भारतमाला और योग सागरमाला बनाई है। इसी तरह आर्कटिक से लेकर अंटार्कटिका तक भारत के 2 रिसर्च बेस यानी पृथ्वी के 2 ध्रुव भी योग से जुड़ रहे हैं।
The Prime Minister said that this year over 180 countries have come together to practice yoga, which is simply unprecedented. He added that today yoga has become a global spirit.
भारत के आह्वान पर दुनिया के 180 से ज्यादा देशों का एक साथ आना ऐतिहासिक है, अभूतपूर्व है। आप सबको याद होगा 2014 में जब यूएन जनरल असेंबली में योग दिवस का प्रस्ताव आया तो रिकॉर्ड देशों ने इसे समर्थन दिया था। तब से लेकर आज तक अंतर्राष्ट्रीय योग दिवस के जरिए योग एक वैश्विक आंदोलन बन गया है, ग्लोबल स्पिरिट बन गया है।
Indeed, and the Prime Minister also spelt out the importance of yoga in his video message, saying that yoga can deal with, the contradictions that one has in one's heart as well as in one's mind.
योग हमारी अंतःदृष्टि को विस्तार देता है। योग हमें उस चेतना से जोड़ता है जो हमें जीव मात्र की एकता का एहसास कराती है, जो हमें प्राणी मात्र से प्रेम का आधार देती है। इसलिए हमें योग के जरिए हमारे अंतर विरोधों को खत्म करना है। हमें योग के जरिए हमारे गतिरोधों और प्रतिरोधों को भी खत्म करके रहना है। हमें एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत की भावना को विश्व के सामने एक उदाहरण के रूप में प्रस्तुत करना है।
Now let's run you some graphics and talk a little bit about the International Day of Yoga and the background to it. Well, yoga, it comes from the word from Sanskrit, and it means to join or to unite, and it symbolizes the union of body and consciousness. The UN, as we know, has declared International Day of Yoga in 2014, and June 21 marks that day. And in 177 countries supported this resolution. As Munmun was saying earlier, it takes benefits of practicing yoga worldwide. That's the whole purpose. The Prime Minister had proposed this idea in the 69th session of the General Assembly. And yoga, of course, marks the summer solstice in the Northern Hemisphere. In 2015, the theme was in fact, it was at Rajghat where the main function happened. The Prime Minister and the dignitaries participated from various parts, and Yoga for Harmony and Peace was the theme. Also in 2016, Yoga for Sustainable Development was the theme. Yoga for Health, and 51,000 people, enthusiasts participated in Lucknow at the main event. And in 2018, Yoga for Peace, 50,000 enthusiasts in Uttarakhand participated. In Ranchi then it went to in the next year, 2019, 40,000 people, and in 2020 the theme was Yoga at Home. We understand why. There was a digital format because we were suffering from COVID at the time. Yoga for Wellness during the pandemic the next year. Then we had this major event in Mysuru last time, which was called the Guardian Ring, also across several countries of the world, 79 of them. And the UN representatives now in 2023 are from 180 countries, and their leaders will be participating under the theme called Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
And now let's take a deep dive into the history, emergence and development of yoga.
Well, yoga is derived, as we said, from the Sanskrit root, which is
Yuj.
Yuj. And Yuj in Sanskrit means to join, to yoke, or to unite. And the great sage Maharishi Patanjali systemized this, codified the practices of yoga. And after that, many sages and have contributed greatly.
And the aim of yoga is self-realization.
Yoga is believed to have started with the very dawn of civilization. In fact, it dates back to the very beginning.
Right, Mark, and historical evidences of the existence of yoga was seen in the pre-Vedic period in 2700 BC. So that's about the origins and history of yoga.
The main sources of information are, from the Vedas, Upanishads. So also there is other forms.
So yoga has a very glorious history. Smritis, teachings of Buddhism, Jainism, Panini, epics, Puranas, they all have mentions of yoga. So yoga has a glorious history.
Yeah, between 500 BC and 800 AD, it was considered the classical period, and that was the most fertile and prominent period for this.
Yes. And during this period, commentaries of Vyas on Yoga Sutras and Bhagavad Gita came into existence.
And between 800 AD and 1700 AD, the aspect of the mind was given importance.
The aspect of mind was clearly brought out through Yoga Sadhana. And the period between 1700 and 1900 AD is considered as the modern period after the classical period.
Yes, in fact, the great Yogacharyas contributed to the development of Raja Yoga.
B.K.S. Iyengar was the founder of the style of yoga which is known as Iyengar Yoga.
Yeah.
Iyengar was considered as one of the foremost yoga teachers in the world, has followers in different parts of the world, including in India, of course, and also in the United States. Let's now get a perspective on Prime Minister's visit to the United States of America. Like we are telling you, we are counting down to that moment when Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be leading the 9th International Yoga Day celebrations from the North Lawns of the UN headquarters. Very significant, and for perspective on that and on the expectations from Prime Minister's visit to the United States, we have with us Ambassador Meera Shankar. She is former Indian ambassador to the United States. Also, Acharya Partishta, who is a yoga guru, is also with us, and Arun Kumar, Yogacharya, is also with us. Such a pleasure to have the two of you here on the screens. We can see now Ambassador Shankar, good to see you after some time. Let's get started with yourself. First of all, your impressions of Prime Minister Narendra Modi leading the 9th International Yoga Day celebrations at the UN headquarters, which actually made the International Day of Yoga possible because of the leadership that was shown by India, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The significance of this?
Well, the significance is that it is, India's cultural diplomacy and soft power visible across the world. Yoga is a system which acts on the endocrine glands, and it has found increasing adherence all over the world. For instance, when I was in the United States, there were already, and that was 2009 to 2011, there were already about 20 million Americans who were practicing yoga. And the popularity of this has grown across the world. And the initiative to have an International Day of Yoga to raise this at an international level, as I said, expands India's soft power and diplomacy. Because for many of the practitioners of yoga in the West, they really just thought of it as a system of physical exercise, and very few of them were even aware of the connection with Indian philosophy. So this is something which, as I said, elevates this practice at the international level.
Acharya Pratishta, let's, I'm going to ask some basic questions, whether yoga benefits women more than men, for instance. Is that a question that perhaps you can answer?
Wonderful. See, first of all, I would like to say that we are fortunate enough that we have such people in power today who know that we have such tools from our culture, such treasures from our culture, which can be used as tools of soft diplomacy. And not just of soft diplomacy, I personally feel that today when people are scattered, when families are scattered, when countries are scattered, when societies are scattered, we need a science to synthesize. And when we say that United Nations has declared 21st June as International Day of Yoga, it simply means they have given true meaning to their name, which means United Nations, because yoga, the exact word meaning of yoga is to unite. And it is also a matter of immense pleasure for each and every Indian today that for the first time, any Indian PM is going to address the US Congress twice. Though even if we look at it worldwide, very few leaders have done it earlier also worldwide as well. So it is International Day of Yoga, and I feel that yoga is a science that touches all the levels of human life, whether we talk about physical level, mental level, social level, emotional level, psychological level, financial level, and even spiritual level. And what to say of women and men? Each and every individual need to practice yoga, need to adapt yoga, because the simplest definition of yoga is yoga karmasu kaushalam. So I feel if you're sitting here and doing your anchoring perfectly, that is also a yoga. So we need to be a yogi to be a perfectionist in whatever we do in our life.
Is that the reason, Acharya Pratishta, that yoga is now increasingly popular year after year? Ambassador Shankar was speaking about how when she was posted in the US, there were so many followers. In 2012, I have the figures, there were around 20 million followers in the United States, and that has now gone way up. Around 36 million plus of practitioners of yoga are there in the US. So is that the reason, in fact, that there are so many followers, and the following is only increasing by the day, by the month, by the year?
Absolutely, Munmunji. See, if we look at our Shastras, there is a beautiful saying that says, Dukhatreh nivritti swarupananda vaptishcha. That means each and every individual wants to be happy in life. What is the ultimate objective of life? We all want to get rid of our sorrows, whether it is sorrow of body or mind, or our day-to-day life. And yoga is the only solution to all the problems, physical, mental, and as I said, each and every problem of human life. Now, I would add one thing here. As you said, this is the reason that popularity is increasing. Absolutely, yogis and mystics had been practicing yoga in caves since ages. But now we have such people in power who know that they have such treasures from their culture which can be used not just only as a tool of soft diplomacy, but to remove sorrows of general people. And that is the reason today world has accepted yoga with broader hands, broader heads, and broader hearts. And that is a moment of pride for each and every Indian today.
Ambassador Meera Shankar, does yoga then give a diplomat a cool head, able to negotiate better, and probably from the Indian point of view, since one is under the assumption that a lot of Indians would be practicing yoga, and would that give the people whom we deal with the feeling that India is a country that can be trusted?
I think that depends on the relationship. Yoga is one aspect of the relationship. It doesn't define the relationship. That would depend on geoeconomics, it would depend on geopolitics, and of course it would depend on cultural comfort levels with each other, and there probably yoga plays a role. So I would say it's an important element, but it's not the defining element in any relationship. It can influence at the margins. As far as diplomats are concerned, certainly I think yoga, if individuals are practicing it, it would help them to control their impulses, to be more focused, and to be calm and collected, which is always a plus in diplomacy. Because if you get worked up, or you lose your nerve, or you lose your cool, then I think in both instances you actually are handicapped in terms of negotiating with other countries. So yes, individual practice can strengthen concentration, focus, being collected, being calm.
Right. Also, Ambassador Shankar, does the fact that this particular celebration in the UN headquarters has the official blessings of the UN, there's a statement that's come out from the UN Secretary General as well, talking about how there is a message of unity through yoga that is going out through this celebration. Do you think that this reflects India's growing global standing and stature? This is also India's gift to the world in a sense.
Yes, I think people across the world now are able to access the best of every culture, which they were really not in a position to do before, when we didn't have so much of communication, so much of travel, and instant access across the world. So, knowledge was more isolated and in islands. And today, that can be shared across the world, and that is the big benefit of the information age. So yoga has found adherents and practitioners across the world, and the UN has taken the initiative to declare the International Day of Yoga in recognition of this cultural heritage, which has now become a global cultural heritage going out from India.
Acharya Pratishta, if we have to, put this into context of the large cities that are growing across the world, and many people want to live in cities, but of course the hustle and bustle of cities is only going to increase, and we are living in tough times dealing with climate change and other aspects. So in future, do you think that yoga can be much more than just a balancing force within individuals, but also, create this lifestyle for the environment in a sense, which is required to live in harmony with our surroundings?
Absolutely, Mark Ji. I feel the biggest lesson of yoga was given to the one who was known as the biggest Dhanurdhar, but he couldn't fight at the battlefield. And that was the point when Shri Krishna said, Tasmat Yogi Bhava Arjuna, stand up and do your duty. So yoga is actually for those people who are living in Vishamtam Parasthiti. If you are living a happy and healthy life, you would take it just like as a 10-minute routine. You can do it every day. But we shall never wait for the right time to come. Rather, we shall adapt yoga and start our yoga practice. And as this year's theme itself is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So yoga teaches us to live in harmony, not only with other people, but with Mother Nature, in harmony with every living being around us. And that is the true meaning of yoga. So if we do not go into the deeper definitions of yoga, we just look at two mark sheets. One is a Hindi mark sheet, one is an English mark sheet. So at the end of Hindi mark sheet, it is written yoga. And at the end of English mark sheet, it's written total. So yoga means to live in totality. Yoga means to unite. Yoga means to live your life perfectly and with perfect harmony with each and everything around you. So I think solution to every problem, whether it is related to our environment, whether it is related to our day-to-day life, whether we talk about physical problems, mental problems, and even spiritual elevation, that can happen only and only through yoga. Yoga is the solution to each and every problem of human life.
Right, and yoga in fact is popular around the world, like we've been talking about, and has a lot of popularity within the United States as well. We'll take this discussion further, but we'll take a breather for now and tell viewers more about the popularity of yoga, particularly in the United States. So in the US, 34.4 million yoga practitioners are there. So 34.4 million people practice yoga according to data that's been gathered from the data gathering platform Statista. That's 10% of the current US population, making yoga more popular than golf. But some South Asian Americans are concerned that this ancient practice is being culturally appropriated in the process. Our US correspondent Kate Fisher reports ahead of the International Yoga Day.
Let's come and comfortably sit. So sit in Sukhasana.
It was a sports injury that first pushed this former runner off the track and into an Iyengar yoga studio.
One of my doctors actually recommended trying yoga as a way to refine my foundation, like the foot and how it plants off of the ground and the stability. I wasn't a big fan, I have to be honest, for my first few years. It was very hard to move from a competitive athlete mindset to being in a room where there's no competition and it's truly just being present.
20 years on, she's teaching others. But as a white American, she says she feels a big responsibility to respect yoga's ancient Indian roots.
It does make me a little sad and a little weary when sometimes I speak with people about what their experience in yoga is or with yoga is, and it's very superficial. They don't even know where it came from, much less everything else about it. And I will forever be grateful that that was not my start. And so my challenge as a teacher of it is to just continue to try to teach what I know through my own studies with my own teacher, and hopefully with time, again, that door opens and people walk through it.
Punjabi American Baldeep Pooney trained in Goa and has been teaching yoga in the US for 8 years. He says he tries to honour his ancestry while making yoga as accessible as possible.
So for me, I always feel like I've been a bridge between cultures, so I feel like there's a great bit of insight I have in terms of the yoga practice and like the fluidity it's had throughout its history. So, you know, what really makes about tradition or what is traditional, I feel like is really, subjective. In regards to how I honor the tradition, I would say is that I really focus on regularly practicing myself, because I feel like one of the key elements is that you have to be a practitioner.
He hopes that International Yoga Day will encourage even more people to become practitioners.
In my life, I would definitely say yoga has yoga, mindfulness, and meditation, which I really feel like are byproducts of yoga itself, has really had a healing effect and for my mind, my body. And I feel like having a day where that is being offered on such an international level is a very powerful thing.
It's also an increasingly popular thing here in the US, making the delicate balance between its ancient roots and its application in modern life a challenging one to strike. Kate Fisher in Washington reporting for DD India.
Right, and we continue to be joined by Ambassador Meera Shankar, former Indian Ambassador to the United States, and Acharya Pratishtha, Yoga Guru. Right, Ambassador, I'll take that question to you, which was related to the report, where it said that some South Americans do believe that this particular practice is being appropriated. Here I remember what Prime Minister Narendra Modi had said in his address to the US Congress in 2016, that we have not asked for any IPR for yoga, and in 2014 as well, when the entire process was going on to have the June 21st as the International Day of Yoga, it was said that this is an ancient Indian practice for the world, for universal acceptance. So who is culturally appropriating this, and if this is really happening, is that fair?
Well, I think culturally, when you share something and it becomes accepted worldwide, its manifestation will be different in different countries as they absorb it. And I suppose that is something which we have to accept. Everything undergoes, change, adaptation, modification. Nothing remains static. And that's what happens, for instance, in cuisine. Look at the way India has absorbed cuisines from China, from, Iran, which greatly influenced our Mughlai cuisine. And yet what we made of it is something totally different. So I suppose there's a certain dynamic or a dynamism in this whole process. And it's good that we share it. But that others do not seek to, impose IPR or other restrictions on it. I think that would certainly not be in the right spirit and would also not be legally, upheld. So I think sharing and being open to people adapting or adjusting, I think is part of this whole process of cultures being absorbed, assimilated, and then redefined in a sense, in a way which is comfortable with that country's idiom. And I think that is something we have to accept. We can't You know, if you look at even Indian folk songs today, they are very different from the folk songs we might have sung a century ago. They are not static.
Indeed, Acharya Pratishta, so how would you deal with an issue like this when, somebody from a different culture would feel that, this is a cultural imposition in a sense, you're trying to target their culture, you're trying to make them feel that they are probably, need to start looking at India as if they are the source of everything and things like that. There is a bit of a mindset change that would have to be, brought about. And probably that's what diplomats would also need to do. But, as a yoga guru yourself, how would you go about doing it?
Mark ji, I think very first thing is nobody has ever imposed anything on anyone. So I have also served as a diplomat because I had handled world's largest culture center as the director. And I have seen how open people are towards yoga. And what to say of yoga only, I was also member of the committee that formed this common yoga protocol, and even during that time it was taken utmost care that we should not, because yoga is not just a mere set of physical exercises, it is a complete lifestyle, but still we have taken very few things so that to make a common yoga protocol so that everybody can accept it and everybody can adapt it. And out of our, we are very happy to see that today whole world has accepted it. And even in the common yoga protocol, there is nothing. Ambassador has said such beautiful things that we have accepted so many things from so many cultures. And change is the human nature. If you look at the traditional yoga, even today there are so many amendments that have been made, looking at it in a global perspective. So change is the ultimate human nature. Our body science says that our body is changing every second. Our mind is changing every second. So we have to change with time. And today when we have a science that can help the entire world to live in harmony, to attain health. As I said, what is the objective of human life? Dukkhatre nivritti swarupananda baptishya. We all want to be happy. There is no one in this world who would say, I want to have a sorrowful life. I want to have diseases. I want to be unhappy. No, everybody wants to be happy. And yoga is a science that leads us not only towards happiness or health, but towards a state of bliss. And especially today, when in the last 3 years we have seen the importance of yoga even more during this crucial time of pandemic. So Mokshaitan Yoga Sansthan came out as the first organization to give the COVID management and prevention protocol. And we have healed millions of people worldwide through yogic practices, how you can enhance your lung capacity, how you can breathe in more oxygen. These are some very simple things which can become a day-to-day part of your life, and but we just need to be open towards yoga, and that is going to give solution to all of our human problems.
Acharya ji, is there any parallel that you can think of or of adoption of any country's culture, it's the heritage that it's proud of at such a scale in other parts of the world? I mean, is there any parallel to the kind of popularity that yoga has today, which has really popularized and made the Indian way of life a household thing?
See, I think I would not say anything parallel to yoga, but I can tell you so many things. Like, you just take the example of samosa. Very few Indians know that samosa is not an Indian dish, but we have adapted it as an Indian dish, and today worldwide people are eating samosa thinking that it is an Indian dish. So many words are there which are not traditionally and culturally ours, but we have adapted it. So this way, I think cultural exchange is the only way to build up a better world. And our government is doing that with so much of enthusiasm. Cultural exchange is the most important thing right now to have more happiness and harmony in the world, and all countries should come together and be a part of this cultural exchange. That is the only way we all can actually live a Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and do something better for the world, for environment, for everything around us.
Right, so we'll thank you, Acharya Pratishta. You're being told that you need to leave now. Thank you so much for your comprehensive analysis, for your sharing your thoughts on the International Day of Yoga. Ambassador Meera Shankar continues to be with us. Ambassador, I have learned that the first Indian VIP who was invited to the White House was in 1927, Yoganand Paramhans, by the then President Calvin Coolidge. So does that again go on to show that this Indian practice of yoga benefits were seen long time back by the whole world?
Curious and open to cultural influences from elsewhere, but I think the popularity of yoga really is a current day phenomenon. It wasn't there in the past on such a mass scale. Individuals and certain sections, aware of Indian philosophy or Indian systems of exercise may have practiced it, but mass practice or mass appeal was not there. This is something which has happened, I would say, in the last 30-40 years or so. It's not something which goes back to that day. But certainly you can see that people now are very interested. I mean, and it is a fact that there are other forms of practice also which have become quite popular. For instance, Tai Chi or Taekwondo or Judo. I mean, these are martial arts. They are different to yoga, but they have also become quite popular across the world, and there are many people learning it today, including in India. There are many in India who would be learning some of these arts, even though there's this belief that some of those martial arts probably originated in Kerala and then, were transmitted to East Asia, or it could have been vice versa. We don't really know, but there are similarities between the two.
Ambassador Meera Shankar, so when we as our embassies start promoting our culture, and we have to focus on not just yoga but the whole vast beauty of India's cultural heritage. I'm sure most people are interested in Indian dance. Is there a way to relate it? I mean, or there's bring out a purity in a sense, because otherwise we might get a case where people do dance and think they're doing yoga.
Well, I think that it has to be in a context, and if it's universal, it can easily be understood. Nowadays, they even have the practice of, like if, for instance, you have Ratan Thiam's play, which uses a lot of traditional music and, gestures and so on. Then you have the script actually translated and running at the side in subtitles. So people who may not know the language can follow it. Or you might have something which comes in the beginning before the scene, and then the scene unfolds. So there are now ways in which modern technology is being used to make different cultural arts more accessible to audiences across the world who might not understand the intricacies of that art. And of course, several of our dance forms and our music, I think these are the two aspects of Indian culture which have been most popular. And individuals like Ravi Shankar, Zakir Hussain, Ali Akbar, all these musicians, these are musicians who went and started living outside in America and found disciples and audiences, but also musicians from India like Vilayat Khan or Amjad Ali Khan. I mean, so many of our own dancers, they have gone across and presented our dances across the world. Some of the Shakespeare performances in Kathakali, for instance, have been considered, quite extraordinary when they were presented in New York, for instance, and at the Lincoln Center or elsewhere. The Kennedy Center had a whole festival of Indian culture while I was there, where we got the best of Indian artists, and it was a roaring success where you couldn't have seats and find seats, and many people were just in the lobby listening to the free concert which was going on in the lobby at the same time. So I think that there is a greater openness to external cultural influences, just as in India now. I think there's a greater body of people who listen to Western music, whether it's jazz or Western classical, or even Western orchestral music, or even opera. So I think this is a two-way flow, and it will actually enrich our cultures, that we are open to these influences from outside.
Yes, indeed.
Ambassador Shankar, please stay with us. Also joining us is Yogacharya Arun Kumar. Arunji, such a pleasure to have you. What is your sentiment at this point in time? In say less than an hour from now, we expect the yoga session being led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the UN headquarters on the 9th International Yoga Day. A historic moment for India and for the world to start.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. And it is wonderful that Prime Minister has gone to New York to celebrate the International Yoga Day. So I'm really happy, because there are so many people who are interested in yoga and also practicing yoga in US, and especially in East Coast of USA. It is so wonderful, both in Washington DC area and also New York, because I keep visiting to these areas. So I have a lot of people, students or connected people who are practicing yoga regularly. So it is so wonderful that PM has decided to go there and start it and do this program instead of India. So that really we are making it Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Earlier it was mostly PM was used to be in India, but now he is traveling throughout the world and especially to USA. So I'm so happy about it.
Indeed.
The people who are connected with me also, they're very happy there.
Yogacharya Arun Kumar, children are also should be interested in yoga. To what extent do you think, if children do take it up, it helps them in concentration and in their classes, in physical education and promotion of sports over a period of time? Some people even consider yoga as a sport. Is that the right way of looking at it?
Well, whatever you told just now, they're all wonderful. They're parts of, benefits of yoga. But I would like to point out one more thing. Your brain has, whatever millions, probably billions of cells are there in your brain. But generally, an average human being uses only probably 2% of the brain cells. Maybe Einstein used to use only 8 to 9% of the brain cells. So, yoga will definitely help the children to activate their brain cells. And that will definitely help them to focus in their education, at the same time grow as a human being and to become an extraordinary human being and extraordinary intellectually and develop at the same time to become geniuses. So that's why we started something called Genius Brain Yoga. So which helps once you use the yogic principles regularly, you will be able to activate brain cells in a much better way. Right. So naturally quite useful for the children.
So quite useful for the children and quite useful for people from all walks of life, all age groups. Arun J, you spoke about how yoga is practiced in different parts of the US. You've seen it happen over the years. What is the trend that you see there in terms of popularity? How much of it is growing? And what is the feedback that you receive from people who've practiced yoga, who've taken up yoga? Do they tell you about how things have changed or life has changed for them?
Well, just like India, in US also you can see in every street corner there's yoga studio, which is so wonderful that people started respecting yoga. And financially also probably it's a $20 billion industry in the US itself. Forget about the entire world. So it is very popular, no doubt about that. And people started, experiencing the benefits of yoga. That's why it is so popular. And also, people are generally, more focused on their health to become better, health-wise. At the same time, to reduce stress. These are the two major things. To be healthy, at the same time, to reduce stress. And some of them are quite interested in spiritual growth as well. So slowly, the concept, the purpose of yoga is becoming more holistic. Earlier, it started with only health. Maybe it started with reducing weight. Then gradually, it is becoming very, very holistic, and for the total benefit of the human being. So that's what I can see the trend right now. And every nook and corner of US, I see people practicing yoga.
Ambassador Shankar, right, we'll try and connect with Ambassador Meera Shankar later, but we'll continue with Yogacharya Arun Kumar for now. Arun ji, there's a lot of medical research also that is happening on yoga. There is in fact a center for integrative medicine that AIIMS has. So, what is your understanding of how integrative medicine works, for instance, the curative and preventive effects of that, because this is being increasingly used in AIIMS and in different parts of India particularly.
Correct. See, I have been connected with Apollo Group of Hospitals since 1995. So it's quite long time, almost, more than, almost close to 30 years. I'm connected with them and we've done a lot of work. That is one thing. Of course, the hospitals are slowly and gradually accepting throughout our country. At the same time, there is something called PNI, Psychoneuroimmunology. That means the moment you think something, it has an immediate and instantaneous impact on your nervous system, immune system. Besides that, they've left out one more thing, that is endocrine system. So PNIE should have been. So this is recognized today, and many medical schools have started this program for MS students, PNIE. So so basically what happens, there is something called, psychosomatic diseases. And earlier, the medical fraternity, they used to believe that mental problems and physical problems were completely different. But no longer today. Today, 60 to 70% of the diseases are branded as psychosomatic diseases. That means mind-related physical problems.
Right.
So that's why, the scope of yoga is getting much larger, and it is completely established that when a person practices yoga under the right guidance, it has been seen the mind is improving phenomenally. And so once the mental condition of the person improves better, then definitely the body also becomes much better. So the mind-body connection, or mind over body, that particular concept is becoming stronger and stronger and stronger throughout the world. So that's how I am very assured that yoga has a much greater role in the world to play. Sorry, live, I think there is some current issue.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we can still hear you, so we can continue to talk to you, Acharya, Arun Kumar.
Yes.
But, if we have to look at, in fact, if we have to look at the lifestyle diseases that the world is now beginning to face a lot of things like diabetes and all that, hypertension, and people say that yoga is the way to sort of deal with them. Medication has, some way of keeping things in control. But if yoga can even try and bring out a cure, people say, because you just talked about the mind, over body confidence. And even some people say that, it can even go to the extent of reversing, things like cancer and all. Is this scientifically correct? Or, there may be skeptics who say, really?
Well, I'm debating, it's a matter of debate, no doubt about that. But I'm sure it's helping people to reverse the cardiac problem, heart problem, no doubt about that. I have worked with thousands of heart patients. One, Dr. Primal Chaudhary is there in India. I've worked extensively with him. He used to take help for stress management and yoga related things in his program. And there is one Dr. Dean Ornish in US. He has worked extensively on cardiac problem. In fact, there is something called Brownward's Book of Cardiology, which had only 8 chapters. But today there is a 9th chapter, something as preventive cardiology, which basically professes whatever Dean Ornish did. and which was complete, application of yoga in a heart patient's life. How different principles of yoga can be applied to improve the condition of the heart, how we can even open the blockages of the heart. Generally, traditional cardiology, they say, okay, if you have got cardiac heart blockage, then you cannot remove. But it was proven scientifically that with regular right practice of yogic principles, people who are suffering from cardiac problems, they are able to open their blockages. Not one or two, thousands of people. So it is almost established. There is a Browner's book of cardiology, which is supposed to be the Bible of cardiologists, that has a specific chapter on this. So that is one thing. Second thing is, I have been also working with Apollo Cancer Hospital, where I have worked on hundreds and hundreds of cancer patients, and I have seen when the basic root cause behind the cancer. Of course, there are the pollution and smoking and many other things at the root cause. The root cause is the mind. So what I understood is some deeper stress which got embedded in a person's mind. Later, it got supported by various other reasons, and the tumor is developed. That is what my understanding. And also many scientific research is substantiating that regarding cancer. Not only heart and cancer, cardiac problem, cancer, many diseases, including diabetes. Your mind is so important to, reverse diabetes or many other such diseases, lifestyle, whatever you call it, metabolic disorders, lifestyle related diseases.
Right.
So if the right combination of yogic principles are applied in a person's life, there is every possibility that you will be able to reverse these diseases. Because one of the major thing is the brain and the nervous system and the connection with the body. Now, if this nervous system connection is not proper, then the organ is not getting proper messages from brain. And for each and every organ, there is a point in the brain. So the brain controls these organs. So once this nervous system connection gets affected, neurological connection gets affected, then these organs also become weak. So at least 60 to 70% of the diseases, can be made better if right yoga can be practiced, right principles of yoga can be applied in a patient's life. That I am very sure with the researches that is going on throughout the world. At the same time, my personal experience of almost 30 years in this field.
Acharya Arunji, please stay with us. Also joining us is Professor Joshi. She is with the Center for US Studies, School of International Studies, JNU. Professor Joshi, good to see you here on DD India on a special broadcast. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the USA. We are counting down to that moment. It's 30 minutes to go almost when that historic moment begins on the North Lawns of the UN headquarters, when PM will be leading the 9th International Yoga Day celebrations, 9 years after he made the International Day of Yoga possible through his leadership. What does this mean for India's standing? This is an international event. There are international personalities who are joining. There are 195 flags that have been put up. This day is being celebrated by over 180 countries. So this is indeed an international event, and India is proud to be leading it from the UN headquarters. What does it mean for India's global standing?
Being an Indian and that too a scholar of international relations and then a teacher of world politics, it is a historic moment for me when I can see that how the entire world has accepted, acknowledged and appreciated the power of yoga, which is something that belongs to India. And many years before India contributed to not only the domain of healthcare, but the other important areas also of innovation through its elements of various practices, and yoga is one of them. And yoga worked as a significant instrument of soft power that helped India in marking its presence at global level as a global leader. And all of us know that how our Honorable Prime Minister made the entire world realize the power of yoga. And because of his important role, United Nations acknowledged 21st June as the International Yoga Day. And today we see that how entire world and most of the countries of the world celebrates today as the International Yoga Day, and all of us know about the importance of yoga. But as a scholar of international relations, I believe that yoga not only helps us in keeping ourselves physically and mentally fit, emotionally fit, it also works as an instrument, as a practice to connect with others. So yoga has that power of not only enhancing our interconnectedness, but also the power of connecting with others. And that is what all of us can see today, and it's actually great to see that today our honorable Prime Minister would be doing yoga in United States of America. And this is indeed actually not only adds to the power of India and its standing in the global world order, it also spreads the message of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the pillar stone of Indian foreign policy, that what India believes in. We believe that this entire earth is a family, and being a family, it's our responsibility not only to keep ourselves fit, but to also help others in keeping fit. And that's what our honorable Prime Minister has gone to the United States of America.
If we could take that a little further, Professor Joshi, you know, I mean, this is happening at the United Nations. We now are the largest country in the world in terms of population. And we have been asking, crying for a long time, that the UN needs to be reformed. We need a permanent seat there. And, you know, I mean, is this some way of saying also, with all the countries supporting us, you know, performing yoga, that let's think as, you know, with one mind and try and reform the UN at least?
That's a very good point you have made. And I also had thought of covering it in, you know, my thoughts today, that India has emerged as an undoubted global leader today. And now India has again achieved its brand image of being the Vishwa Guru. And today, when we look at the composition of international institutions, we know that how the global politics work, and how after the end of the Second World War, when United Nations was formed, all its principal organs were more or less controlled by the powerful nations, the colonial masters of once upon a time. And that is why at that point in time, many developing nations went for this non-alignment policy, which India only led, because no developing country or underdeveloped nation wanted to be a part of the lobby politics. The Cold War had already started, and looking at the composition of the international institutions, the developing nations or the underdeveloped nations were not getting the leadership role at that point in time. But when we relook at that history today, I feel that now this is the right time when all the developing nations should get their right place in these international institutions. And having said that, look at India, how India has emerged as a global leader today, and being the president of G20 for this year, India has already shown its potential to work as a global leader. And that is why what it has been demanding for many years, that all these principal organs of United Nations should see the light of the day in context of their reformulation or you know, some renovation. And there, considering the permanent seat of United Nations Security Council is an apt demand, because when you look at the composition presently, there is no right place given to the developing nations, particularly coming from Asia, or for that matter from Latin America.
Okay.
And that's the reason India has been demanding for the reformulation of United Nations Security Council, and India must get a permanent seat over there.
Right. There's news coming in. There's an announcement that we can make now on the prominent personalities who will be joining Prime Minister Narendra Modi for 9th International Yoga Day celebrations. So Sava Kurosi, who is a Hungarian diplomat currently serving as the president of the 77th UNGA, will be part of the Yoga Day celebrations at the UN. Besides that, there's Eric Adams, who is an American politician and former police officer, serving as the 110th mayor of New York City. So there is an international presence. This is very much an international event, as we've been saying. In fact, India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Kamboj, also said so. There's Amina J. Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General of the UN and Chair of the UN Sustainable Development Group, will also be part of these celebrations. Richard Gere, who doesn't know Richard Gere? He is a famous Hollywood actor who's an advocate for human rights in Tibet. He is a co-founder of the Tibet House in the US and chairman of the board of directors for the International Campaign for Tibet. So these are the prominent personalities who will be joining PM Modi at the UN headquarters for the 9th International Yoga Day celebrations.
We'll be able to connect with our correspondents and talk a little bit more about that. But I mean, for the moment, let's look at this particular story and then take this discussion forward. The UN chief Antonio Guterres has extended greetings on International Day of Yoga. In his message, he said that in a divided world, yoga unites millions of people across the globe for whom it is a source of strength, harmony and peace. Guterres added that on this Yoga Day, let us embrace the spirit of unity and resolve to build a better, more harmonious world and a planet for the people.
Yoga offers a haven of calm. It can reduce anxiety and promote mental well-being. It helps us to develop discipline and patience. It connects us to our planet, which so badly needs our protection. And it reveals our common humanity, helping us to understand that despite our differences, we are one. On this International Day of Yoga, let us embrace the spirit of unity and resolve to build a better, more harmonious world for people, planet, and ourselves.
Yogacharya Arun, Kumar, you know, you were talking in your last answer about how yoga helps us to overcome various lifestyle-related diseases, and it was just, you know, I was just thinking perhaps a lot of people suffer from various kind of addictions as well. You know, I mean, they may be addicted to chocolates for one, or maybe even, you know, even coffee or something like that. These may not be considered vices, but they may affect your body over time. To what extent does yoga, you know, help you in trying to reduce some of your dependencies?
Yeah. So these addictions, you know, they're part of mind, definitely. Some area of mind get programmed in a particular way, and because of that, we get into, you know, get addicted to any particular thing, be it coffee, be it alcohol, be it smoking, be it anything, or tea or anything. What happens is, if you generally take something, occasionally it's fine, but without that you cannot live. That makes a big difference. That, you know, makes your life more miserable. So it is part of your mind. And if you break your mind, then you get 4 portions of your mind. One is called conscious mind, one is subconscious mind, then you have something called unconscious mind and superconscious mind. And the different aspects of yoga, when you apply properly, the rightful way, then you can definitely work on all these 4 areas of the mind. And once you work on them, naturally you can deprogram and reprogram them based on the need. So right applications of yogic principles is the key, and the right teachers have to, or right, you know, experts have to get into it to help a person to get rid of that. And once the person is also trained to work on that area, then he or she herself or himself can work on that and get rid of the problem. So definitely yoga has a powerful role in overcoming or outgrowing their addictions, no doubt about that. Yes.
Right. Let's take a look now at how celebrations of International Yoga Day are taking place in different parts of the world. We'll come back to you and take this discussion forward. But before that, let's dip into how various countries around the world are celebrating International Day of Yoga, the land of rising sun. Japan, for one, commemorating the 9th International Day of Yoga, the land of rising sun, saw people gathering on mats, and they practiced Surya Namaskar or sun salutation at Tsukiji Hongwanji Temple in Tokyo in Japan. So these are visuals of this morning that have come in from Tokyo, the capital of Japan.
And at Maitri Research Station in Antarctica, the Indian team of scientists and researchers came together to celebrate the International Day of Yoga through practicing yoga.
So people have been practicing yoga indoors as well, not just outdoors.
At
it's
the
about
poles
making
as
the
well.
most, yes, the most of the opportunity that they've got today.
Right. And talking about the other pole, in fact, with the theme of yoga for the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, people all across the world are extensively celebrating the International Day of Yoga. The yoga session was held at Himadri Station, which is India's research station in the Arctic.
Right. So the whole world is celebrating International Day of Yoga, and we are now being joined